Hi, I'm Penguin, aka Taylor, and today I'm going to be talking about the best sports movies part 2. So I did part 1 last week, this is part 2. So check out part 1 after this stream is over, you can check that out. So, starting off with my first one, I'm saving the best for last, like I did last week. So starting off with my first one, Double Teamed. Now, Double Teamed was a DCOM. If I remember correctly, it was a Disney Channel original movie, and DCOM was this movie was amazing. So it's about these two twins. I forgot what their names were, but two twins who played basketball, but they were moving to like a larger high school so they could get recruited by college scouts, and they're trying to become WNBA stars, and they have to deal with like pressures of like trying to see that they're different. They have a hard time seeing that they're both different. And so it's a really good movie. Highly recommend you check it out. I think it's on Netflix. I think it's on Disney Plus. I don't know. I don't have Disney Plus, but you can probably find it on there or on Netflix or Hulu or whatnot or YouTube. But it's a pretty good movie, and I think it's based on a true story as well. I don't know. But this next one is. This next one is based on a true story. I saw this one at the theaters when it came out, and it came out at the same time that If I Say came out, and I saw If I Say first, and I hated that movie. But more on that later. That's it for a different time. But this one is When the Game Stands Tall. So this movie is all about De La Salle, the high school De La Salle High School, which is a high school in Concord, California, I think. And don't quote me on that. And it was just about this football team who won over 100 games straight, had no losses, and it was just about them and having to overcome not only not only their professional loss like as a team, but also personally having to deal with that and having to overcome like losing as a team. And it's really good. At the beginning they talk about like the team at the time. I think it was Green Bay Packers, I don't remember, or New York Jets, one of the two, had like the uh most Super Bowl wins, and then or the most Super Bowl appearances or something like that. And then they talked about my Sooners with the most with 47 straight games that I lost, which was awesome. And so I love this because they talk about it, and then they say, then there's De La Salle with over 100 games without a loss. So this movie is so good. It didn't get the reason why like people didn't see it was because of If I Say. If I Say was so hyped, and so that's why people didn't watch this movie. And I remember seeing this movie a couple of years ago at a Dollar General. At a Dollar General, the movie deserves more. This movie was really good, and highly recommend you watch it. Uh, yeah, because it's about football. It's about football and yeah, American football, by the way, not soccer. My number 3. Sorry, I have something in my throat. My number 3 is a gymnastics movie, and it's called Stick It. Now, Stick It is about this girl named Haley Graham who used to do gymnastics, and then she gave it all up one day. And, like, she was about to make it to nationals and everything and be this huge gymnastics star, but then she gave it all up because she lost like her self confidence, I guess. And so she gets in trouble with the law. Well, the judge sentences her to sentencing her to juvie or whatnot. The judge sentences her to work at this gymnastics gym, like be to go back and do gymnastics again and be a uh, competitor at this gymnastics school. This gymnastics gym, and so that's what she does, and she has to overcome like her fear of like rejection and and just overcome a lot of obstacles. And it's got Vanessa Langes in it, who played Sugar Moda in on Glee. So that's amazing. She's awesome in this movie, and it's got Missy Peregrine. She plays Haley Graham, and I love this movie. And Nasia Lukin's in this movie too. So what's better than me? You can't get any better than that. But they do talk about like how gymnastics is very much a subjective, has a very much has a they talk about the fact that gymnastics is such a subjective sport. It has a subjective scoring system, and what we see on the TV, like what we see on TV, may look perfect, but in a judge's eyes, it's not perfect. Like there was one scene where Haley Graham's teammate was doing a Protonova vault. It's the most difficult vault for a female. She landed it perfectly. Everything was perfect. The judges did not give her a perfect score because they say, and I quote, that her bra strap was showing. Come on. Like, no one cares about if your bra strap is showing. And so the whole everyone at this meet uh, decide to rally for this girl, for this character, and scratch, get a zero on every single event, and pick a gymnast to score and win the medal, and decide, yeah, because they thought it was unfair, which I think it was unfair too. So yeah, number four, my fourth one is not really a sports movie per se, but I included it because it kind of is a sport. So it's called Gotta Kick It Up. This movie was a decom, but I didn't see it on Disney Channel. I watched it at my house, which we didn't have cable last time. We still don't have cable, and it was on like my network TV. And I watched it, and I loved it. It's about this. I think it's based on a true story, if I remember correctly. If I remember correctly, it's based on a true story, and it's about these girls from this like predominantly Hispanic uh, junior high, and the new teacher decides to create a dance team, and so they have to learn to work with each other, both the dance team and the coach, the teacher who becomes a coach. They have to learn to work with each other, and I think it's a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend you see it. And yeah, and like the most memorable scene in this movie that I can remember, the two most memorable scenes was the auditions for this team to get on the team. No, actually three. The auditions to be on this team. The second one, they got, like, their pom poms and stuff, and they got their uniforms, and they weren't new uniforms. They were old uniforms from like years ago because the school didn't care about the team. And then I remember they had their own. They went to this competition, and they went without their coach, and that's where they had to learn to cooperate and work together, and put aside their differences, and yeah. So it's an awesome movie. If you haven't seen it, highly recommend you check it out. So yeah, and if you've seen the thumbnail, you can see the thumbnail. If you haven't already told by the thumbnail, my number five is a movie that I don't necessarily consider a sports movie per se, because I don't know why, but I included it on this list because I love this movie, The Big Lebowski. I saw this movie. I've only seen it once because I don't own it, but I'm gonna try and watch it on Peacock because it's on Peacock. But I watched it in college. I was taking a film class in college, and we watched movies in class, and this was one of the movies that we watched, and I loved it. I love this movie. It's so good. It's hilarious. It's got John Goodman in it. Uh, Jeff Bridges is in it, and Steve Buscemi's in it, and it's hilarious. And it's a bowling movie. It's about bowling. Well, it's not really about bowling. It's just about like the dude. He gets he shares the same name with this billionaire, and they have to like exchange money and stuff, and gets into this whole chaotic thing, but it's awesome. And then there's bowling in it, and it's a hilarious movie. one of the scenes, one of my favorite scenes, well, two of my favorite scenes of the movie involved the bowling. One of them, well, actually three of them, but one of them was with John Goodman's character Walter. He's he's he shows up at the bowling alley with his ex-wife's dog because he's pet sitting this dog and he can't leave it at home because it ruins everything and all that stuff. Well, what's hilarious, what's crazy about this scene is I'm passionate about bowling, but not like Walter. Walter goes off on this guy named Smokey for stepping over the line and brings a gun to the uh the bowling center. And I'm like, I'm passionate about bowling, but not that passionate. And he just goes overboard and over the top, but it's amazing. I love this movie. I love that scene, and it's just ridiculous. You can find the scene out. I'll try and find it and post a link in the description below for it. But I love this movie. My second most memorable scene, and it's hilarious because so so Steve Buscemi's character Donnie is uh is bowling with Walter and the dude, and he's up there throwing. He just threw a strike, and he's like, I'm throwing him dead in the water, like you guys are dead in the water or something like that. And then this whole scene they're talking about peeing on the rug, like how this Chinese man peed on the dude's rug and all this stuff. And John Goodman's character Walter's telling Donnie like, just shut up, like you don't know what you're talking about, you don't know anything. And then at the end, like Donnie, played by Steve Buscemi, is so he's just so confused. He's like he's just far behind. He has no clue what they're talking about. And then like the dude talks about how like talks about how I'm gonna go find this. I can find this Lebowski guy, and then Donnie. This is my one of my favorite scenes. Donnie's like, his last name is Lebowski. His last name is Lebowski. His last name is Lebowski too. That's your last name, and he's smiling when he says it. And I can't stop laughing. When I saw it, I couldn't stop laughing. It's hilarious. You have to see it. I'll probably post that one in the description below. And then there's one, it was a dream sequence where the dude is like bowling and then he's bowling on the lane and like he's acting like he's a ball or whatnot, and he's doing like these turns and he's looking up these girls' skirts, which I think is so inappropriate, but that's like such a memorable scene. Yeah, and if you haven't seen this movie, highly recommend you see it. It's on Peacock. I don't know if you have to pay for it or not, but hopefully you don't because this movie is amazing. One of the best movies ever made. And I think I remember hearing about it on like the Bench Warmers or Talladega Nights or one of the DVDs that I have. They mentioned it, and I was like, "Oh, I have to see this movie because it's a bowling movie." And no, I think it was on Blues Brothers, if I remember correctly. I think it was on Blues Brothers, and I was like, "I have to see this movie." So I finally did watch it. I watched it in college, and I fell in love with it. So yeah, post in the comments below what's your favorite and subscribe to that notification bell. Bye.